One counter-terrorism analyst says airstrikes alone are not the solution. Fraser-Rahim studies transnational terrorist organizations for the Quilliam International group. He's calling for a multi-pronged approach to prevent attacks.
We have a radicalization problem in the United States, just as much as Europe has a radicalization problem. And so that we should really see this as something that we're all going to have to continue to deal with. It's a generational struggle. It's not going away anytime soon. And that the adversary itself is one that is not necessarily a state-to-state engagement, but we're dealing with a non-state actor trying to carry out state tactics as well. And so we have to be just as adaptive and stay innovative just as much as these organizations have as well.
Talking about adaptive, is our focus wrong in a sense? Because, I mean, there's been so much coverage of these drone strikes in Yemen, Somalia, and elsewhere. You know, a drone strike's not going to equalize the guy in San Bernardino or the person who carried out the attack at the Pulse nightclub in Florida or this gentleman that carried out the attack in New York City. Is the focus wrong, or should it be a dual track?
It has to be dual track. I was at a conference before I came out here to London, and what we recognize is that you have to realize that the issues, there are hardcore counterterrorism efforts that require kinetic activity. It's part of law enforcement, it's part of military, it's part of intelligence apparatus throughout the world, and those have to take place. And then what are those prevention efforts that can really get at the grassroots local civil society level? They will be very nuanced, they will be very localized, and the response or the appropriate efforts have to be tailored and surgical with the right anecdote or the right antidote, if you will, that can address the local context. Certainly there are good practices that we can borrow, whether you're in Central Asia, whether you're in Africa, whether you're in the Middle East, or whether you're in Western societies. But they are increasingly going to be a local effort. And so we have to be dual track in this approach. And unless we do it that fashion, unless we see it as I mentioned earlier, a generational issue, I think we're going to see the reality that we don't want to see, that this is the new normal. I'm not comfortable, nor am I going to fall victim to say that this is the new normal. Collectively, we have to see this as a fight that local communities themselves, religious communities, faith-based communities, as well as government structures have to work side by side in partnership.
Is anybody getting that right at this point?
I think that this is an experiment. It's something that individuals are testing out. Oftentimes you hear that there are best practices. I don't think there's best practices at this point. I think there are good practices to share. I think there are certain efforts that some countries are doing that's right for their specific area and concern, but I think that the jury is still out. And if we had won this fight, then we wouldn't be seeing the attacks, unfortunately, that we saw in New York City that killed those innocent 8 lives and certainly countless others who've been injured.